What the hell? Okay, there we go. We're always gonna start with some sort of problem, I guess.
Chaos.
Yep. But yeah. Welcome back, everyone. This is go- what, episode 7 of season 2, I think. Um, as always, we'll be doing a little bit of promotions going around and stuff, but sort of all those plugs, but just because she's not here, she will be here at some point. We just don't know when. And as she will likely say, she arrives fashionably late because I feel like that's going to be one of the things that she's going to say when she joins. Um, but yes, Little Legend is you can find her on Tumblr, Twitter, all of that. Find commissions and all of that, or do art and all those fun little things. Please go check them out. The drawings are very adorable, I would say. Uh,
And severely underpriced. Get them before they have to be raised. Like, seriously.
yeah, get some commissions before the artist finally realizes that you know they should be charging more.
I'm
Um,
trying. I am trying so hard.
but that is the promotions for Little Legend. I'll wait towards the end. Um, Also, just a quick note, Zaz will not be here tonight as they have a bit of a head cold, and rather than trying to suffer through that, they're just going to take the time to, well, as our server's saying, take some R&R. But, yeah, going around.
Hi, I'm Slay, at Sons of Warvan under on Twitter. Uh, I'm gonna be on the Candela Obscura game, and that's pretty much all I got going on right now.
I'll go. Hi there, I am Silver Sugar, aka Risa, and you can find me most places on the internet as Silver Sugar or X Silver Sugar. The X is silent. And right now I am doing some pay what you can afford commissions. It would be very much appreciated. I also have one, if you're into the game Bug Snacks, I have a your character here that I'm in the progress of working on, and that is also available. And I got adoptables and all that jazz as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's all for me.
Yes, go commission, people concerning, because capitalism sucks. Um, yeah, I'll say that on Twitch. Doesn't stop me. And then obviously on my end here, uh, as mentioned, as Slay said, we will eventually be we'll be recording our first session of Candela Obscura Circle of Fire and Blood this Monday. So I don't know exactly when it'll actually go up on Twitch and or YouTube. We will figure that out as we are going, but just know the recording process is happening. Um, in addition to that, 50 followers will get our Lower Decks 2 shot that we have been, well, I have put out there, and the rest have been gunning for. We are actually only 9 followers away from hitting that goal. So, if you wish to see that, please, if you are not following yet, please do. We would encourage it. We would appreciate it. And for that, if you see this on YouTube as well, and you are not there, we would appreciate a follow from that end. Um, and then finally, in addition to that, next week will be uh, a off Saturday. So there will be no session or episode that week. And then following after that, we will probably be taking, because that will conclude the arc, we will probably be taking a little bit of a hiatus from Star Trek Intelligence until a little bit later. That's not to say we won't be doing stuff in the middle of that, because I'm sure I will kidnap some of you for something. Um, but all things considered in that regard, and then let's see what else. Right, a Starbright Fantasy. I am fighting with the editing process for the last couple episodes. I don't know why it's giving me such a hard time. It just is, because YouTube is like that. Um, it. I don't understand why YouTube needs to be this difficult for something that's not that long. But anyways, that is all of that. And we will be jumping into the game. So, I do believe that is everything, unless I forget something, in which case I'll mention it. See you in a moment. Welcome back. People will be joining eventually, but until then, the crisis at Cestus VII is still underway. Rather, that time is not of the essence anymore, as the sun is not going to explode. It has rather instead done a different thing. It has imploded. Um, because red matter exists. However, during all of this, the Archimedes, as well as the USS Titan and a few other vessels, are now in a less strenuous process of evacuation, though evacuation still needs to happen. Being on site, the intelligence team can kind of deal with that, as well as deal with the aftermath of certain events, and also maybe look into other events that have come up during this crisis. Given all of that, between the people that we have currently, what would any of you like to do in this moment?
Are we still in this nebulous kind of downtime ish?
Yes, it is this sort of nebulous downtime, sort of, but I mean, there
Gotcha.
is still this urgency to, get people evacuated, but now that there's not a supernova threat, people can take a breather. Like, the whole fleet can take a breather, because it's not as pressing anymore.
Okay.
I mean, things are gonna get very cold on this planet very fast,
Yeah.
but at the very least, cold can be dealt with to some degree. Heat death is another story.
Yeah. I think Kavai's been helping out with probably a group that they've found to help with archiving.
Okay. That would probably actually put you in a very interesting spot, which would be one of the larger city structures, with probably members of, wouldn't be the intelligence team, it would probably be members of, honestly, the USS Titan, because they are technically a ship that is more dedicated to science and diplomacy. So you would probably joint mission with Commander Vale, honestly, and her team.
Not intimidating at all.
She's an intimidating person. Probably the best representation through every bits of media that I have read of to do sort of Christine Vale's sort of intense persona justice is probably like a later season, comparable to later season Battlestar Galactica. Katie Sackhoff would probably be the best casting choice here.
Oh, damn.
I am not familiar, unfortunately. I would have to look up.
Have you seen The Mandalorian?
No, in terms of like sci-fi, my only experience is Star Trek, and
Okay, that's fair.
at least for major ones,
And you were probably paired with
and Firefly.
Yeah, and you were probably paired with a couple of other people that are stationed at like lieutenant and ensign rank. But going through this sort of city, there are still people populating it currently, but it is strange to see a fairly large city, which probably held about 85,000 residents, to be reduced to mostly a ghost town.
Kavai is more comfortable in that environment. The more people that are around, the more likely you are to accidentally bump into someone. So this is fine.
The commander kind of is paying attention to you some facet, but more just because you're not really sure if she's doing a form of judging or just finds your particular profession interesting, but she is keeping relatively silent about it.
That's fair. Kavai tends to, if they're working on something, they don't notice. They have no spatial awareness, unless like there's a break in whatever they're working on. So right now, they would be incredibly like hyper focused on probably something that most others would consider obscure. They've literally gone around to several businesses and picked up like physical flyers or whatever the equivalent of like any sort of like analog media would be, that is like either culturally significant that people have set out that they have requested to save. It would be like small things that like no one would think, like private journals or like food stock lists, like day-to-day stuff, like little tiny things.
Just cataloging the day-to-day, okay.
Yep.
Alright, moving through, eventually, there's like a bakery that is, abandoned now, but still relatively fresh, all things considered, and you'll watch, Commander Vale, like, reach across the like glass desk and like reach in and just grab some sort of pastry of some kind and just like hand it off to various members of the team. No one's gonna eat it, so
I just shrugs.
I mean, it would be a shame if we didn't catalog the experience, right? So
They will smile at that, but also go back around and like find like an ingredient list.
okay.
Unless there is a shopkeep still.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah.
As you move through, and truly it is one of those things where you do find a recipe book, more or less. Not really sure what it says, but it...
That is totally fine. That is a high priority save. food culture is very important to Kavai.
Uh, Underappreciated.
Yep. That's probably one of the first things she gets to work at trying to translate, actually. And that also goes into their own personal, like, they're keeping this. Unless they also, anything that Kavai has cataloged, she keeps a record of where the prior establishment, like, where those people are headed. Like, she's trying to keep, like, an accurate list of these people are relocating to XYZ. This person was sadly deceased. Next of kin is located here. It's like a massive, like, web of, like, trying to make sure that these people's personal lives aren't lost. It's going to
Minimizing
be
disruption as much as
Yep,
possible.
yep. It's going to be impossible for them to obviously take care of it all, but at least some of the cultural damage is going to be at least preserved within uh people that have, like, culturally significant stuff, like especially like food, artists, uh anyone that's going to get overlooked, like small media, small, like, just anything like that.
Okay. As you're kind of going through, there is the tricorders and stuff going through, scanning throughout the city, making sure things are going as all right as possible, and one of the science officers, an ensign, and oddly interesting species for this. They are what judging by just the way they act around things, this is probably someone who has defected, but this is also similar to what Lieutenant Loris dealt with. They probably have some fairly heavy Kazinthi heritage, and they immediately stop for a second and and get the commander's attention. Commander? Go ahead. I'm getting some interesting fluctuations here. Well, let's go find out what that is.
He'll pick up, like, the nearest, like, tricorder and try to, like, peek at what they're seeing.
Yeah, it's a really weird fluctuation. It feels similar to almost like rudimentary cloaking tech.
That cannot be good. All right, I will follow their lead.
They will move throughout the city, like scanning for it. As that is happening, I would be curious to know what Commander Jaloran is up to in this moment.
She's taking some advice for once, and well, yeah. She's headed back to get some rest.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it's a miracle.
Only took a season and a half.
Well, it's like the question is, will she actually get some rest?
Yeah, I think.
So she's likely headed.
I mean, you have temp
If not
quarters
headed
for
in
the Archimedes,
yeah.
so
My thought is like, is she going to get interrupted on her way to those temp quarters?
No.
Or is she actually going to make it?
She'll make it.
Oh, yay.
However, I think for this, Commander, I'm gonna have you roll as you kind of find yourself at least trying to rest. I'm gonna have you make a presence command roll with a difficulty of 2.
That's crit and a 7.
Okay. So
1 momentum for us.
1 momentum, perfect. As you kind of fall into rest, it is restful at first. Before the sounds of Polaron and phaser fire erupt. There is the tearing of sheet metal, the melting of stone as it is superheated, and you can feel a kind of reassuring but tough grip on your shoulder as a then captain Pyre is garnering your attention, and kind of a little dazed, you are looking down at your pips, and they are slightly reduced, one would say, as they kind of shake you out of whatever stupor you probably were in. Jaloran, are you with us, or are you asleep?
I'm sorry, Captain. I'm here.
Alright. You know the plan, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. We're gonna lay down covering fire, and truly, I would offer some words of encouragement, but this is the Dominion War, so, you know.
Sir?
Call over a lieutenant commander who you kind of faded from memory and you don't fully recognize. Are you ready?
Can I break in real quick?
Yes.
Jalor never actually saw action in the Dominion War.
I'm aware this is something that feels a little off to you.
That's what I thought. She's gonna stare at that lieutenant for a second. Are you ready to go?
The form kind of clears, and you can see a lieutenant with sort of lieutenant commander. Sorry, the lieutenant commander with the sort of command red of the time of that era, as well as the pips adorning sort of long, sort of brunette reddish hair, and she snaps her fingers and everything just freeze frames. There is really no catching you flat-footed, is there?
Not exactly.
So, do you understand what this is? Or the
This is
metaphor I'm
war.
trying to hit? Well, you got that. There you go, it's war. Something that you seem to constantly be, stuck in.
Metaphorically and not so metaphorically.
Yeah, I've noticed. Now, my other counterpart would have set some sort of elaborate long game for this. I do not have the patience or the creative machination to do something of that degree.
Perhaps you could learn from your counterpart a little bit. It would be a lot more entertaining.
It would be more entertaining and also equally frustrating for me because it takes you mortal beings so long to figure things out.
But what if we enjoy the game?
And that is the problem, Commander. Maybe you enjoy the game too much.
Given your frustration, I gather there's something you want to get at?
Yes, your little... whatever you called it, red matter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, you truly are a non-creative bunch when naming things.
Oh, I didn't name it.
Oh, well. Either way. Seems you've averted a crisis to some degree, so congratulations to that, I guess.
Thank you.
But... this is... secondary to what's in your mind right now.
Very much so.
So, what is on your mind?
Certain betrayal.
Betrayals happen all the time, Commander.
Oh, I'm thinking of one in particular.
Ah, yes. The betrayal where you sort of messed up, one might say.
And it makes me wonder, was I supposed to mess up? Or was I set up?
Well, there are certain individuals we could visit to help with that investigation.
Are we going on a field trip?
In a little bit, Commander, but I will give you the peace of mind to rest for a little bit. And as for this whole war scape here, not a creation of mine, but one of yours. Well, one of your subconscious, at least. Perhaps your brain felt that the Dominion War was the best analogy for the turmoil you're going through.
That I'm not entirely certain, since I never actually saw combat. But I know someone else who did.
A lot saw combat in the Dominion War, Commander.
How are you so certain that I'm alone? in my own head.
Well, that's something we'll have to explore now, isn't it? Actually, going backwards will help you go forwards. Then she'll just kind of disappear and her form and everything around will just kind of form to mist and then fade to black. Tate, what is going on with you in this moment?
Let me think. Question: is the captain on the bridge again, or is the captain sleeping?
The captain is on the bridge again. She's had a little bit of time to rest, finally.
Yeah. Okay, then I think Tate would be investigating what they could of that old Klingon warbird that got away,
Mhm.
and like try and plot its course, basically,
Okay.
or anything that they could figure out. Anything that there's probably not a lot of trail left, but any breadcrumbs they can gather.
Alright, I think this is going to be a... This is going to be an insight security roll, because you're kind of going through different like feeds and stuff. So insight security difficulty 2.
I have to get below a 10. Let's see if I can do it. I got a 6 and a 17. I only got one success.
Okay. You are looking through and seeing all of this. It's very difficult to find any type of surefire way of like tracking path and such. But the one thing that you are able to determine, with all the chaos that was happening around that time, it does require someone to be a fairly skilled pilot to be able to maneuver through something like that.
Like
Especially
we talking me skilled or more skilled?
equivalent or more.
Okay.
Because the Klingon Raptor went out of service during the early 23rd century.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. I think after that, Tate also hasn't had much time to rest, but I don't think Tate wants to rest yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Tate is just basically going to wherever they can. If anyone needs help with something, I think Tate is a little restless and like because they defied death a lot on this mission in the pilot seat, and they're a little just like, if I stop now, I'm gonna die in mentality.
That's fair, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
As you are moving and kind of going through, Captain Gomez will like intercept you as, you know, going up. You're going down through the turbolift, she's going up, and just, Commander,
Captain,
glad to see that you're well, I hope you're at least taking the time to breathe for a moment.
maybe.
Do I have to... I would prefer not to order you to get some rest, but your team has a particular knack for overdoing it. I say with The most endearment I can muster.
I'm just worried that the other shoe's gonna drop. That something else is gonna happen.
Commander, that is more than likely going to happen, but, as a few wise captains have told me in the past, we'll deal with that when that happens. Until then, take a breath.
You didn't order me, but I'm gonna take this as an order because that's the only way I'm gonna stop.
That's probably for the best.
Okay. I will go. I'm hungry. I'm gonna go to 10-4. I'm gonna go get food.
That is probably the best thing you could do. I believe one of the Bolian chefs is in charge right now. Do not get any of the Tellarite stuff, though. That's still a work in progress.
Thanks for the recommendation. And I'm gonna go, as I said, go get food and try to calm myself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm in the turbo lift, I have to fight off the memories a little bit, and the memories of my past lives, particularly for some reason my first past life, Dodier, the doctor, the the major doctor who revolutionized putting it the symbiote process. Um, his memories have been showing up lately, and I don't know why, but um, Dodier, Dodier's memories have been like Dodier and Kadan's have been the only memories I could access a little bit, and Dodier's memories sometimes come up in times of stress. Like I don't know why, but they just do. And right now, the memories are trying to fight to the surface, but I feel like I'm trying to keep them down because I'm not in a place to let those memories come over me yet.
Mm-hmm. 10 forward on the Archimedes is. It's not galaxy class impressive, but it is fairly sizable. And it is. It is set up because it is a diplomatic vessel. 10 forward is set up much like a very nice cocktail bar. And there are certain chefs and stuff, and like little, almost like buffet type of setups. There are officers, particularly there are a pair of ensigns that you would have known that was something that Lieutenant Loris, they they would not be alive without her. Um, as kind of go through, and there is a strange to see a Vulcan bartender that is much more in tune with their emotions, you would estimate, conversing with certain people, and he will take note of you. Well, that's not a good look.
I bet you say that to all the girls.
Hmm. Well, only the ones that are having a bad day.
Hmm. I think we're all having a bad day right now.
So, are we doing synthahol, or am I opening the drawer and we just don't tell the captain?
Uh, let's go with Synthahol for now. Trying to be responsible.
Boring. Got you. Any particular planet of origin for the synthahol? Maybe uh, Trill, perhaps? Though I
Uh,
don't think synthahol would do that justice.
mm, yeah, let's go with Trill for right now. I'm not feeling that adventurous. I've been flying like crazy for the last several hours.
Ah, so you're the crazy pilot that the engineers have been talking about.
They say crazy, I say skilled.
And yet you're here, so at some level, you are a little in between on that.
I
Shots
mean,
or rocks glass?
rocks glass. I mean, there's only so many times you can do that kind of stuff before it starts to wear on you, I guess. But if I had to do it again, I'd still do it.
Hmm. Maybe. I mean, we all have things that we were proficient in or are proficient in, and at a certain point, it becomes a bit much, and we need a break from it.
You're very in tune to to emotions for a Vulcan.
Yes, I break the traditional status quo. It's very
I
upsetting for
appreciate
my
it.
parents.
Oh, yeah, I know a little bit of something about that. But
I would know.
mhm. So what brings you on to this diplomatic vessel or
Diplomatic
adventures?
vessel, well, I've been on a few diplomatic vessels before, but this is the one that's always stuck out to me. Captain Gomez's approach to things are a little unorthodox, but they are effective. They're more personable. Previous assignment was aboard a Sutherland class vessel, which was the USS Charity, which I don't know if your mother has been too revealing on that particular station, but
Does everyone know my mother?
either Jesus. Sorry, Twitch. Anyways, I got distracted by something. um, uh,
Here we thought you really didn't want to answer the question.
Never change. Never change.
none of you will ever know, and that's fine. Well,
I was late to introduce myself. This is my introduction for today. Hello, people.
Always having to kick the doors open.
oh my god. Anyways, his response is, well,
I waited for a while.
Actually, I'm scrolling up from this message so I can't see it.
Oh, I broke the DM again.
Jesus.
We
Okay.
need the focus emote somewhere. Focus.
Anyways, in response to your question, Tate, by reputation or by unfortunate relation?
Which are you?
A combination of both. At one point, I was the chief tactical officer. So
I'm sorry. I rudely didn't ask your name. What's your name?
oh, there's the question. Okay, so before I answer this, are you looking for birth name or just the name I go by? Because there are two different ones, and two different ones will yield two different results.
Whichever you feel more comfortable with.
Lars. We'll go with that one.
All right, Lars. Nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and you are certainly less intimidating than your mother.
Klingons are less intimidating than my mother. Klingons with knives, ready to stab you.
I'd almost agree, but personal experience has me putting that in the middle.
Fair enough. But so you've had, I'm assuming, bad experience with my mother.
I've had decent experiences too, but her style of command is mildly totalitarian, would I say.
She gets results.
Results at the sacrifice of relations are not results.
I mean, she's got to have some relations. I mean, you don't get to be admiral just purely by stepping on people. You've got to talk, at least make some friends.
Well, friends of fear are not friends at all. She is
True.
one of the few of the Admiralty that I would say is more of a loner.
Yeah, my mom isn't really the type to be in big groups sometimes, but she's just, she does what she thinks is best, and like, who am I to contradict that? She's gone very far in her career.
And what about you, Commander? What is your view on everything that's happening here? Surely your approach to things was different than how your mother would have handled things.
My mom has told me I can be a bit soft at times. I
wouldn't say
am.
empathy is soft.
Depends on who you're being empathetic towards, I suppose. But my feelings of what happened is that this is crazy, and it's kind of ridiculous to a point of absurdity. In a bad way, obviously, because a sun blowing up is not good. But I admit my mom can be a bit rough around the edges, but I try to always know she's under a lot of pressure, and I try to be like empathetic towards that, because she has a big job, and she can't always be nice. Like, I can be nice more often in my job. I can be the slightly gentle commander but I've had to be a little bit of a hard ass sometimes, but I guess it's just a matter of scale, really, when she's an admiral and I'm just a lieutenant commander. But I think my mom can be nicer than people give her credit for. She just doesn't show it very often.
That's a very well thought out and honest answer. Most people that come into my bar will circumnavigate a tough question like that.
Well, one of the things my mom taught me is to answer questions directly and honestly.
That is something I did learn.
Mm-hmm.
So I do appreciate that there is an attempt there. Are you sure you don't want stuff from the drawer hidden here?
I mean, I do, but if something happens and I need to fly something, I don't want to fly drunk.
You're not going to fly drunk if you have only a small amount, and you're not slamming it like a Klingon during some sort of celebration.
You know what? Sure, just this
Also,
once.
this is a rare opportunity, and this is something you can hold over your mother's head for the next few lifetimes. I do believe I have a Trill vintage from 2344.
2344.
Yep.
She's been trying to get her hands on one of those for ages.
Well, sip at it. And
I will carefully sip.
it's only about an ounce that is poured, but it's corked, and it's a really interesting type of like drink flavor. It's somewhat fruity and savory with a slight hit of like a pepperminty aftertaste.
Interesting. This is good.
Yes, and there are only 200 in the galaxy that I know of.
You are quite the collector.
Well, collector is a good generous term for it. I did win this in a poker match from a Tellarite captain of a salvager ship.
How did he get it?
Don't know. I left the airlock and took my shuttle before you could renege on that bet.
Fair. Is my mom the reason you're no longer a chief tactical officer? Or did you retire?
We had a disagreement, but I left of my own accord.
Good. That's good. I'm starting to see that my mom has left some enemies, and some of them don't like me because of her. So I just wanted to make sure you weren't added to that list.
I do have some of my Vulcan training still ingrained in me, and holding a grudge like that is just unhealthy.
It is, but people can be like that. Not everyone's rational, and not everyone's healthy.
Oh, I will be one of the most irrational Vulcans you'll ever meet.
Cheers to that.
You're gonna have to drink. I can't drink because I'm behind the bar.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm sorry. Tate will not finish it though. Tate will just take some small steps. This is as much leeway as they're getting themselves.
As you're going through that, Lieutenant Loris, given everything that has happened in sort of this weird downtime space as people are relocating themselves and stuff, what are you doing in this moment?
Well, with everything that happened, um, she tried helping around and being more like active, productive, but it has been a very tough time for her, and she's still hurting. She's still like very tired. So I believe she would follow the example of Jaloran, and she would go and have a nap.
Okay.
And well, of course, what got her tired. Also, the excitement from getting that medal. It's still in her pocket. She's like feeling it with her fingers, kind of like trying to understand if it's real or not. Not really believing that. Like, wow, that happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kind of like that.
Heading to the quarters and stuff, and that sort of silent hissing of the doors closing shut, and resting. It is one of those things where, as rest, as much as rest you are trying to gather, there is that moment of every time you do shut your eyes, you can still hear the crashing of space debris hitting. It is still active in your recent memory, so there are moments where your fight with the Kazint, they do end up like popping back into your brain here and there. You are able to start resting, but it is probably less restful than you would like.
After like, I guess the third or fourth time she wakes up from that, that feeling when you kind of lying down, you're half asleep, and then there's like the feeling of yourself falling, right?
Yep.
And you just kind of like this. You jolt awake. This is kind of what's happening to her. She trying to fall asleep. She's like half there, and then there is like this memory that just goes like, and she goes. After like a few tries, she just kind of throws whatever is under her arm into a wall in frustration, like.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not gonna get sleep now, I guess. What is it that... Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go alcohol. And considering that she has literally no other choice, and she kind of really doesn't like taking pills, to ironic being a doctor, but she just really dislikes the effect that pills have on her. So she decides to drink herself to sleep, and probably gonna go to a bar.
Yeah, I think you'll probably encounter Tate as they're finishing up as you enter, and there is, again, a Vulcan that is much more in tune with their emotions than you would typically expect, and Lars will kind of look past you, Tate. Oh, would you look at that? Someone showing up who is in a worse state than you are.
Mira?
Hey, that's funny. That's funny. Hello, sir. Sorry for interrupting your idyllic little chat. I need something strong, like something that will knock me out.
Are you having trouble sleeping due to your injuries still?
You're very perceptive. She kind of sits. I'm guessing I'm still kind of shaken up by all that happened, which is stupid, but
It's not stupid. It's
no,
not.
you
You went through.
can't control that.
Yeah, it's not stupid. You went through a lot of really intense stuff. So it's okay to be a little jumpy. I'm jumpy right now too.
No. See, you. I can say I don't know if you understand or not, but I used to be much more resilient than this. You know, I used to fight for my life every second day or so. This shouldn't be as tough on me as it is. So
Is
it's a
it
huge headache.
do you think it's more intense because you weren't fighting just for your life, but the lives of those two ensigns?
That's
You had people you were responsible
interesting
for.
thought.
That's that could be a new thing. Being responsible for people's lives it takes a bit of getting used to, and it's a little bit. It can be frightening. Looking out for yourself, that's easy. Looking out for other people, that can be terrifying.
That's pretty cool words. Well, I guess perhaps we did have a course on that. Yeah, in the academy. Psychological responsibility for people, for patients. I thought I was over it. Guess this is when I actually tried to experience it, huh? Frustrating.
There's not much I can say that'll help, but I do know it will pass. When I
Hopefully, I do like to sleep.
when I first became first officer of the team, I was I was worried too. I had people for one of the first times that I can remember, people that I was responsible for, and that kept me up a little bit. But you grow into it. It's not going to be the same as it used to be, but you'll get used to it. I believe in you. You can do this.
No, that's extremely sweet of you to say. Thanks. Still, I do need that alcohol. The
As your
other
commanding
medical staff
officer,
would
I'm going to ignore that.
probably kill me with a surgical knife. Hey.
Well.
Oh yeah, actually, she's gonna. You know what she's gonna do? She's like, you know what? I think I deserve it. And she's gonna pull out the medal and show it to them. Like, hey, look at that, shiny little thing, isn't it?
Oh my god.
What a flex.
Is that
See, I deserve the alcohol.
with your injuries, I would highly discourage that, but I will get enough to a celebratory fashion. Nothing further, as your commanding officer is here, and I also have to strongly discourage that.
Shout out to a real good bartender, by the way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Applause. Mira does appreciate that. She's like, oh, you're a real one.
Yeah. I think if you have trouble sleeping, you should probably go to the med bay again. For something to help.
Nah.
Don't let alcohol become something you depend on to get to sleep.
What? No, of course I wouldn't.
Was just
I know
slide over a glass, and
both my limits and
this is your only one for the night. And I look at Lars when I say that. I'm like, that if I have to make it in order, I will.
Aye, aye.
Keep in mind, Commander,
Aye,
I'm a commanding officer, but I do
aye.
know how this works.
I know you're not. I'm not your commanding officer, which is why I didn't. Yeah.
There
Please.
is that pleasant whiskey
You
burn.
can stop
That
worrying
was.
about me. Nice.
I'm your commanding officer. It's my job to worry about you.
Well, Commander,
No, I get it.
I believe you probably need rest, Commander, and I will take things from here.
All right. Don't let her have any more. Mira, get to sleep when you can. Don't drink too much. Be responsible.
Yes, yes. Thank you for worrying about me.
I'm serious, Mira. Don't go too far.
I will not let that happen.
You know, it,
Thank you, Lars.
two babysitters. Yes, exactly what I asked for. Don't worry, seriously. I'm not a drunk or anything.
I know
I
you're
just
not.
need this to chill out a little bit.
I understand. I'm just making sure this is what having people that care about you is like now. Is like, Mira. People worry about you.
Is that so? Well,
It's
does feel
weird,
nice.
isn't it? You're gonna have to
Anyway.
get used to it.
All right, I'm gonna go get some sleep before the next disaster hits us. So, thank you, Lars.
Starfleet. What would happen? A disaster after a disaster? When has that ever happened?
Don't even joke, Lars.
Literally don't.
And I go.
It's
I get up
both.
and I go
like
to my quarters.
like the idea of just both of them turn into her like no.
Somewhere in the distance,
Mira's
Kai
gonna
sneezes.
slowly
Someone said a stupid thing.
read that drink.
Yeah. You eventually get enough to like calm nerves, Mira, before you can head back towards. And this time, sleep is somewhat restful. But as you were about to just, right as the last moments, as you were about to kind of pass out, you don't remember Lars ever reaching into a shelf for any of the proper alcohol before you pass out.
Could you repeat?
You're breaking up a bit, little.
Oh, cool, great, okay. You're breaking up a little too. Could you repeat that? I'm really sorry.
You're good. No, Lars never got any of the alcohol proper for you. It was all synthahol. He was not gonna give you any.
Cool, great, okay. Well, at least she's asleep now. You know what? As long as it's like
The
it
placebo
works.
effect is powerful.
It is very powerful.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Planet side, however, Kavai, you are with Commander Christine Vale and her team as you're searching for this sort of rough cloaking tech, and eventually you do find it. It's kind of in the middle of a cross section of a street, and the energy is just like hovering above this cross section.
Is it like scale wise for this reading? Are we looking at like a ship, an individual?
A drone, probably.
Like our equivalent of a drone, or like a bee? Like I need that defined.
Like a starship repair dot.
Okay.
So fairly decent in size, but not too large.
Gotcha.
And you've all clocked it. You all know it's there. But you're kind of Commander Vale has more or less suggestions like just move on. We'll pay attention to it, but don't make it obvious.
Fair.
Suggestions, people.
Do we know like who placed it here? Is that something we can?
One thing you do know, Cestus VII does not have access to this variation of dots. These are typically placed aboard, and like Starfleet vessels that have usually a crew exceeding 500.
Oh, so this is Starfleet tech.
Yeah.
In origin. Okay. What kind of like what are our surroundings?
Think a like fairly densely populated suburban street.
Residential or business?
More business.
Can we tell the direction that this is facing? Like, what are they spying on? I want to try and like figure that out.
Probably you, the team you're with, or you.
Oh. Okay. Kavai doesn't offer up any outward suggestions, but they do start like prepping any ways that they would know to like backdoor into this machine. And have that ready to go as an option, as well as like more. She trusts everybody on the team, but I think they're more curious because they've never worked with these people before and kind of fell into it. Question. You mentioned that we have a Kazinti that defected working with us.
Yeah. Younger, so probably more of an idealist, and also probably was met with a lot of resistance getting into Starfleet, but
that would track.
Made it happen.
And hey, they did it legitimately as far as Kavai knows for right now. I also want to pull up their profile.
Okay.
And what do they look like? Like what fur? Like what's their fur like?
Just a deep midnight black.
Ooh. Okay. I don't, as a player, I do not know a heck of a lot about this people.
They are similar to Cation, though they do have telepathic or
right. We learned that
tendencies.
last time.
They're typically a little more aggressive in their personalities, a little less intense. So
Would Kavai's like, as you know that of their upbringing, would they have been taught about their culture at all, or would that have been something they would have had to found out like through?
They would have been taught somewhat about the culture, primarily of like in terms of like diplomatic training, is like don't be stuck in a room one-on-one with them because they're gonna always have more leverage than you're gonna get from them.
Gotcha. Okay. In that case, Kavai definitely is keeping a physical distance out of like like every once in a while, people around them would notice her being incredibly standoffish to the point where it's borderline like almost rude, like because it's like so obvious. But then there's these moments where you can see that they're catching themselves, and like anyone sensitive to any kind of pheromones and stuff would like catch like waves of like guilt and like self-loathing, and then they immediately correct that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like a very obvious like little dance that they're going through, and it's like an active like unlearning process, and nobody can see the hand gestures that I'm doing.
Yeah. But as you're kind of doing that, Commander Vale kind of noticing it. Okay, well, it's a Federation dot. I don't know what that's doing here. It shouldn't be. To my knowledge, no dots have been launched.
Would I have been able to find out like the last like authorization code on it, and if I believe that that is fraudulent or not?
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes, the last authorization code that was used is you immediately identify it as fraudulent because there's no way this could have happened simultaneously. But it is using one of a couple of Commander Jaloran's like override codes.
I shoot a message to the commander and immediately like Kavai is like their loyalty is immediately to her superior officer. She doesn't give a shit about this captain as much as she's putting up that front. So that message goes to her. But then she will point out to the group at large, we've got a problem here.
Okay,
Someone's trying to frame us. And she's like staring at this data, like just with not like fury, because she hasn't quite gotten to that level of upset yet, but there's just like it's almost as if she hasn't like realized that she said the quiet part out loud.
Mm-hmm. Well then.
Like, she's so thrown off by the fact that someone would be that ballsy.
Petty Officer, would the acquisition of that dot be helpful in figuring out the grand scheme of things at large?
She'll kind of like perk her eye up, smile, activate whatever program she was doing to take it over, and say yes.
Okay. The program, like, field take it over.
If possible.
Yeah, this is going to be this is Insight Science, and it is going to be a difficulty of 4.
Oh boy, okay,
With 3 points of threat spent.
Oh my god. Give me just a second. You said Insight?
Insight Science.
Okay. So anything under 15, I can get 2, and I've got a focus that would apply. I still need to buy a die, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
I think I would still... So I have the... Is that an auto crit for focuses? Remind me, please.
I believe. Let me double check this.
Or
Yes.
Focus.
Okay.
Focuses will give a critical success if you roll the discipline number or under it.
Gotcha. Okay. I still am going to need assistance because I don't. This is highly unlikely for me to get otherwise, even buying a die.
Well, you actually have a tricorder, I believe, right?
Yeah, she had a
Um,
tricorder. Yeah, you said you were getting a tricorder.
Yeah, I don't actually
Okay.
have one on my sheet though.
Well,
It's
if you have a
that was sort of
tricorder,
a.
that drops it down to a difficulty 3 then.
Oh, okay.
Well, you would have been like since you're helping with archival stuff and recording and preserving stuff, you would have been given a tricorder to work
Okay.
with.
Yep. So
Cool.
that makes it a difficulty 3. The threat spend is still there, though.
Gotcha. All right. Be kind to me, dice. Sorry, my eyes are real bad. Whoa! Oh! Oh shit! I did roll a 4 on one. Okay. So, this is interesting. That's the 4, a 7, and the problem 18.
Okay. Here's the thing. You are going to overtake this, basically. You are going to shut down its cloaking system and all of that. And you're going to overtake it, and you're basically going to just forcibly shut it down. Here's where the complication comes in. You were able to do that, but it's going to be a two-way street. And you are not going to know how much they're going to get in that, like, fraction of a second while you do this.
Well, at least this wasn't my personal equipment. Well, this is pretty okay for improvising. We'll worry about that later.
The dot does, like, lose its sort of rudimentary cloak, and being somewhat hovering above this cross section just drops, and it does make a fairly noisy metal clank.
Oh, are these objects, are they, like, large enough to catch, or?
If you have decent upper body strength, sure.
No. Never mind.
Dots aren't exactly small.
I have no, like, what do you call it? Point of reference.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
the dots are, like, they're fairly large, but they're not, like, these dots aren't super, like, they're smaller than average dots, but they're still fairly, like, dots on average are about 6 feet tall. This one's probably about 4.5, but it is still...
Oh, I was picturing, like, a fucking toaster.
No.
No, they're big and
Oh, shit.
like the size of a person, and they're made out of metal and computer parts. So
yeah,
very
no,
heavy.
That would squish me. No. That can drop. I would just make sure that nobody was in the way.
Yeah, that falls and it clanks, and again, there's no people around in this area, so it just echoes throughout. Like, this clanking noise just echoes throughout the buildings until it just fades away. And then there is a
Overwhelming
communication
urge.
that does, like, make all of you jump, and you can hear it through a transferred comms through the USS Titan. And it is a very irritated sounding man who sounds a little tired at this point. Commander Vale, I would like to know where you are and where my ship is. Right. Okay, well, that's something I'll have to deal with. I can explain something soon, Captain. We were pulled away.
Oomst? Do we know?
Yeah. The captain of the Titan is William Riker.
Oh.
Pulled the favor.
Yeah, Kavai just like blue screens.
Right. I'm probably gonna be disciplined for that, but it's fine. Petty Officer, do you need assistance transporting this to a different site?
It takes them a moment, and then they snap back. No, I can manage. They're totally not, like, trying to make themselves appear more competent than they actually are. Not at all. Mm-mm.
Right. Make it to your whatever station vessel you're shortly.
Aye. They will get right on that. They will even request a B mount
Mm-hmm.
to be as prompt as possible.
Yeah, the Archimedes will transport you into one of the cargo bays as well as with this dot that you have acquisitioned. And one of the engineers that was not prepared for that, because they are still dealing with some of the damage internal to the Archimedes, because despite everything, the Archimedes shields and all that still suffered some damage. Okay, we're just transporting new stuff in here.
Vi is like, the moment they're out of like range of any important people, their composure is like leaning on this thing and just like, I hate doing that. I'm not puking. This is not. You're fine. You did a good job. Okay. Nope.
There's another engineer that is like cleaning up. Don't do that. I had to clean a runabout. I'm not doing this again.
Sorry. That got me. Okay. Players has regained their own composure. I'm not gonna wheeze to death. That tickled me. Okay. Kavai immediately like starts setting to work on trying to figure this out. But as long as these people aren't like super above their own rank, she is immediately just like word vomit gossiping about everything that they've ever heard about Riker. It's just like, he's in the area. Oh my god, we have to do this right. We cannot look bad right now.
All right.
So cool.
Fangirling to the extreme here.
Yes, as is their entire existence.
Yep.
Absolutely adorable.
Totally not obnoxious
Just
at
gonna
all.
throw that in.
Right. Okay. So
What? No.
interesting, petty officer. I think a science lab would work better for this, not the cargo bay.
Depends on how crowded science department is. Because it's been crowded.
I gather it wouldn't be very crowded right now with everybody focused on repairs and evacuation, and the focus is kind of switched.
Good point. Okay. Yeah, they'll make their way.
Okay. You will have to transport the dot separately, but
this is fine. Kavai.
That's what site to site is for.
Object can go site to site. Kavai walks.
The when you enter the Archimedes Science Lab, it makes the one at the Madrid field office and the one aboard the Hypatia look pathetic. It is massive. There are many different utilities and tools that can be used. It is a wide open space. It also has a hologrid for like 3D model like graphs and stuff. There is different equipment that the Hypatia does not have access to because it is a much larger vessel.
Is anyone else in here?
There are a couple people, but they're primarily just fixing paneling and stuff.
I was gonna say something, but I didn't want to come off as that condescending. She does still ignore them though,
Yeah,
and is immediately talking to this machine, like just gushing over it, like, "Oh, you're gorgeous! Oh, look at these displays."
the
Okay,
engineers
let's
will
get to
finish
work.
the paneling as fast as possible and leave because they have dealt with science officers and they're weird and not.
We
Good.
have extra weird on the scale here.
Yes. Kavai's reputation also probably precedes them, and they would be uncomfortable to be around.
Yeah, I will say for reference, the Hypatia, like, science lab is about the size of, like, your average classroom. The Archimedes is about the size of a Nova class bridge.
Oh, the moment they have this place to themselves, it's this is heaven. There's like just this moment where Kavai is like working on this like little project, like she's somehow found themselves like doing, and there's this moment of like, if I were my father's daughter, I would be stealing this ship right now. There's just such a tangible envy.
As you're kind of going through and looking at this dot with the sort of dull gray eyes that are around, they will alight to a blue, and just you'll watch them flick back and forth for a few seconds, take note of you, and then just shut back off.
These that are known to be sentient?
No, they're not sentient.
Okay. Kavai talks to it still as if it were cheeky. Okay. Let's try something else. They aren't the most well, okay, yeah, it is Starfleet tech, so maybe that's a little easier. Yeah, what would I need to do to, like, would I have to call in somebody else who would be more adept at this? Because she doesn't usually work with, like, the hardware, usually.
Dr. Atherton would probably be your best bet.
Fair. I would shoot them a message.
Okay. Well, that is happening. The message has been shot. We are gonna take a 10 to 15, so we'll be back shortly.
Hey.
We didn't do one last time because everyone was very engaged, but we'll be back shortly. All right. Welcome back. Things happened. But as Kvi has sent a message to Dr. Atherton, Commander Jaloran, you have finally awoken from rest.
Are you sure about that?
Don't do this.
Are you sure about that? Damn, I just scared myself, literally. Who was that?
Little, your
I thought
timing
I
is
was
amazing
punchy
as
last week.
always. Oh my god.
One of these days, I'm just gonna bust a rib because of one of Little's crack ups.
I'm gonna show up to work one of these days, and I'm gonna have like just wraps around my chest. And, like, what happens? Like, I broke a rib. It's like, what were you doing? Playing a game? No, I will not be elaborating. But yes,
Oh,
Commander
I
Jaloran,
will not apologize. Continue, please. I'm sorry.
As you have awoken finally, the
But
Q is
yeah,
actually still here. Q is actually still here. She is kind of just reading a book. You're not really sure where she got it, but she has a book.
yeah, she's not gonna question it. She remembers Chakotay stories about Q all the time. Like making things appear that they want to appear. It's like, yeah, no big deal.
Well, you're up, so I suppose that's a good thing.
Am I up?
Well, I mean, you're sitting up in bed. So, yes, halfway. You're not unconscious and you're not in some weird little demi-plane space, if that's what you're wondering.
Suppose that's a relief.
I'm more creative than my counterpart.
And here you were just saying you were not that creative.
I like being filled with contradictions and mystery.
Aren't we all?
She looks at kind of just the space of existence itself, you presume. Well, most of us would like to be.
Since I am properly awake enough for your desires, what can I do for you?
It's less what you can do for me and what can I do for you.
Oh?
Surely your little problem has you a little stymied, so I'm willing to guide things into a little bit of a direction.
I'm certainly not opposed.
Well then. It's at a certain point it's going to be weird if you just stay here for the longest time. So maybe we just take a walk around this starship and you can fire off your theories and I can guide them in a direction. Of course, I can't guide you to the answer, but I can guide you in a direction towards the correct one.
She gets up from bed and she just throws on a dress robe. It gestures to the door.
It's going to be weird if I step outside the door with you in a very crowded ship, so I'll meet you in the hall. and she'll just disappear.
At which point she just shrugs it off and heads out into the hallway.
She is leaning against the door. Well, big ship. Plenty of time to talk out theories, so... So what do you know so far, Commander? Or Jaloran, depending on what your preference is. I, however, have a bit of respect for authority when it comes to things like that, so whatever title you wish to be addressed by, I shall adhere to that. I'm not like my counterpart, and if we're not on a first-name basis yet, then I will not treat it as a first-name basis yet.
In which case, Commander is fine.
Well then, Commander, what do you know thus far?
I know I and my crew are being jerked around. I know that this was not an accident, nor a natural occurrence.
So, you're in someone's little sick, twisted game, then?
We're in round 2 of this sick, twisted game.
Round 2? You've been here before, then?
In a sense.
Elaborate.
The first time around, I wasn't even aware of the game. At least, not until it was far too late.
Something mission critical, then?
It was.
There was this din of, like, all the different people, like, talking and stuff, and she does a quick hand wave, and it doesn't go silent, but it muffles itself a little bit. You and I can speak freely. They will not hear anything. Plus, I think they're a little distracted anyways.
There's a lot to be accomplished in the next few days, certainly.
So this game, or this mission, I'm guessing you were a crucial part of it.
The linchpin part of it. They needed my skills. I provided them.
And this mission... top secret...
They usually are.
Does that ever get boring for you, Commander?
In the beginning, it was exciting.
And now?
But as the decades later, it can be rather tiring. It can get grating to hear need-to-know basis only after you've heard it the 11th time.
Well, it certainly sounds like you have run your, pardon the metaphor, but you've run your ship a little differently than your predecessors have.
I do the best I can.
And
I certainly understand what I didn't like hearing.
And
I try not to take the blame.
It feels like you still have some bad habits that you're trying to break.
Habits are known as habits for a reason.
Yes, that's why I typically Unlike my counterpart, I have a desire to hold up some sort of decorum. I'm not going to just appear while someone's taking a bath, per se.
I know she certainly didn't appreciate that,
No, she
even with
didn't.
the lure of puppies.
Yes, I found that distasteful and cheap. You had an encounter with him, if I recall.
Which him?
She kind of gives you a
Yeah.
look like, really?
Her mind had trotted down a different track for a moment. You mean your counterpart? Yes, I did.
I'm not really sure what the lesson
Briefly.
was there.
Neither am I.
Perhaps it's a lesson still in progress.
Most of life is a lesson in progress.
Don't worry, I'm a much better proctor.
I certainly hope so. He sucked.
She snaps her fingers, and there is like the slightest blue flash that is just cancelled out. I'm busy. Anyways.
Jaloran just
rude
gives her the most
interruption.
appreciative look. There's some things that can be discussed only between us women.
Yeah, there is a point of decorum that seems to be lacking even throughout the wider continuum. Continuing forward, you had a mission. The linchpin. Where, in your estimation, do you think it went wrong?
Before we even got there.
Is that something that you've reflected on now, or is that something that you had an instinct for then?
I was fairly young then, but not greenhorn young. Something felt off. But I wasn't in a position to push, nor examine further. I shrugged it off and kept going. Upon reflection, I realize now I shouldn't have done that.
Well, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to reflect a little further. She'll snap her fingers, and would you say that this mission was being fairly stealthily, so probably shuttlecraft would be my guess?
Mm-hmm.
You are not sitting in the same spot, but you are watching kind of exterior. You are seeing a younger version of yourself and several other individuals as you are moving at altitudes that are not recommended for a shuttlecraft, as well as equipped with certain stealth equipment that is technically not sanctioned. Well then, looking at all the individuals, including yourself, the helmsman and your team, no cheating, and she'll freeze frame. So you are able to walk around in this moment, but you are able to. It's everything is frozen in the past in this moment, but you are able to walk around. I'll let you analyze and take a look at this moment. What pieces can you find here, Commander?
She moves around a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and she's taking a closer look at the readouts, the control panels, the pads that her companions are holding.
Mm-hmm.
And she seems to be...
Is reading normal upon first glance, for sure.
Yeah, she's definitely looking for indications of something out of place, and like, because she remembers in her brain, companion was behaving oddly for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Looking through, a lieutenant and human, and just the moment was always someone that you knew to be a pretty staunch realist, to the point where it was a little aggravating, because it is one of those things where, someone's like, oh, this mission, it's very important. Him going like, yeah, if we get caught, we're gonna get court-martialed and probably die. So, unhelpful type of dry humor in a very stressful situation. But looking at the pads and stuff, it's just a briefest moment. Like, you see this thin line across the pad, as if a file was closed out and a new one was opened, for the briefest of moments, but it's paused in that exact moment.
And that seems to be the kind of thing that she's looking for. It's like something out of place like that. And she points at the pad, and quirks an eyebrow at Q.
I mean, that's always a possibility, but you were in conditions that could have happened, just by nature.
Or when someone's trying to hide something.
Wouldn't that be a little risky to do something like that? I mean, obviously, you were the most skilled in terms of computer sciences. So, are you sure?
I'm sure.
Well then. The shuttle fades and you're not even sure how it happens. You're just catching yourself walking again through the halls of the Archimedes, and there are a few officers and crew members that are like acknowledging your companion that you have with you, and they don't seem particularly bothered by it. In fact, they don't even seem to register like, oh, this person's not a place. But then again, it does make sense because the Archimedes has a crew of 600 something.
And they've also just taken on a whole bunch of new people.
Mhm.
So
I do understand, though, why my counterpart enjoys playing this part. It is a little fun.
you do get a certain rush from it.
Your team might be one of the very few that understands that rush. intelligence, espionage, all of those things.
There's a certain amount of excitement when it comes to solving a puzzle and being able to make a difference while doing it.
Except the puzzle you face, Commander, is one that concerns you?
Concerns me a great deal.
Concerns you because it will dredge up the past or create future problems.
She just gives her a really tired smile. Yes.
Well, I do believe I've given you a breadcrumb to follow.
Which is much appreciated.
Oh. Would you look at that? And as she kind of moves through the air, there is like a tray that she'll just hand you. That you kind of just
Chocolate
find
chip.
yourself holding. And then she'll just, as you grab hold of the tray and kind of look up, she'll just be gone. And you're just in the hall in the middle of like a tray with food.
She sidesteps on a junior officer that is about to run into her, and she just picks up the fork and takes a bite. Chocolate chip pancakes. These are very good. It turns around and starts trotting back towards her temporary quarters.
Mm-hmm. It does make you wonder, though, Jolene, like, what is her ultimate goal here? Because she's not playing a game like the other one would. She's acting more of almost like a guide or a helping hand, which is a little strange.
It's strange and it's also concerning for her because it's like, to her mind, if this Q wants to help, there's something big about to happen that really shouldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to continue to mull over on that while she finishes her pancakes.
Yeah. They are definitely one of the ones from way back when for you, Commander. From like a particular like store or shop that is unfortunately no longer open. But for that, Tate, as you are heading back and trying to get over everything that's happened recently, there is a weird sort of overlap of memory. You're walking through the halls, but you're also not walking through the halls. It's a different vessel. Like, you're seeing the Archimedes corridors, but you're also seeing the corridors to what you assume to be maybe it really throws you off because it is the corridors to an old Constitution class vessel.
Was Kadan ever on Constitution class vessel?
Kadan was never on a Constitution class vessel, no.
Was it deer?
You're not really sure, no.
Okay, sort of just lean against the wall and try to sort through the memories and try and figure out where this is coming from, who this is coming from.
Mm-hmm. As you're sorting through the memories and it's becoming, you're not really sure, but you definitely know it is one of your lives, and it's probably one that you haven't connected with yet.
Mm. I just say to myself, this is your way of telling me that I need to connect with all of you. You don't need to tell me twice, I know. I just need a little bit more time. I try to push past the memories.
The it sort of flashes back and forth before it becomes the Archimedes corridors once again.
I let out a breath of relaxation for a second. Going, that worked. Um, and is this on my way to my quarters to sleep?
Yeah.
Okay. I go to my quarters. I pull out my pad and I try to write. I write down. I write a note to myself saying, "Research who was on Constitution class."
Mm-hmm.
As a note to myself to research for later because I am like the adrenaline's worn off. The alcohol is kind of making me it's a little tired. I'm just like I'm exhausted. Uh, I'm just going to like lay down in bed and try to get to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that works or not. Like if
It
I
does, but it is, again, it's kind of the same thing that Mira was going through. Is you've had a lot of harrowing things happen throughout the past 24-ish hours, so it's not the easiest because it is like, yes, you made it through, but they were always just barely.
just by the skin of my teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I think in Tate's mind is like, how many times am I gonna be able to pull that off? How many times am I gonna be able to do something that no one else should have been able to do? And also, how am I able to do this? Because this,
Because this is
because
hitting the point to where it's a little unnatural in your estimation.
yeah, like Tate has always excelled at certain things, but they never thought much of it. They just thought they worked hard and they were a little like everyone has talents, but outflying a like it really started when they were flying through that dimensional thing.
Mm-hmm.
The that that was interesting, and they didn't think they could, and that was something that they didn't think they should have been able to do, but they weren't going to tell anyone. They just did it, and they're like, "Oh, I did it,"
Mm-hmm.
and it started. And there was also the time where they went through the two engines of a Romulan warbird and parked basically underneath a Romulan warbird. That was like, and then recently when they outran the implosion that they caused with Dr. Atherton, just like, how am I able to do all this? What is going on? Like, some people mess up every once in a while. I haven't messed up yet. What is going on?
Mm-hmm.
But I think those thoughts kind of plague them. and they do. I think they do get to sleep, but it's not very rest. It's a rough sleep, I think.
With that, as you are asleep and working, toiling the late hours because they have found something that does capture their interest, Kavai, as you have called an assistance, Dr. Atherton is a little busy to give you direct assistance, but will give you assistance with any sort of like computer tech stuff via remote from engineering.
All right. What have we uncovered so far?
Dot is Starfleet in origin, though it does have residual warp signatures that like warp particulates that might be more associated with a Klingon vessel. You do know for a fact when it opened its eyes and like took note of you, it did a quick like scan before shutting off, and you're guessing because of the way you did this. Luckily, it's not attached to the Archimedes systems, so you're good on that. But whatever system is this thing is remotely attached to, whoever is on the other side of it did get like a full like biometric scan before.
I hate
down.
that.
Yep.
Well, now I just start sending them bugged data and doing what they do best of trying either their normal routes of communication and then just slowly spamming the fucking shit out of them. And if they don't get anything back, they don't necessarily get bored of it, but they will not leave this area until they get what they want.
Okay. Getting through and sending some of the bug data, but you are seeing like just computer graphs and stuff. You are seeing the data you are sending is getting. Obviously, most of the data you are sending is full on bullshit, but there is like whatever computer systems are being used, they are being scrubbed before they hit the primary computer systems. Whoever you are dealing with, in terms of on the other side of this dot, their skill set is equivalent to Jaloran, or possibly even more.
Piss. Alright. In that case, then, thoroughly pissed off that I'm not capable of doing this, knowing that it is, I assume that this matches the signature of the Vulcan ship that we encountered before?
Doesn't match that signature. Like I said, it has Klingon particulates onto it. So
Yeah, sorry.
it probably
brain.
does match something similar to like a Klingon vessel, but it is weird because it does feel. The best way to describe the like warp particulates that are still on it, even for Klingon vessels, this feels dirtier, I guess.
So, like, that part of it is rushed? Maybe?
Maybe not rushed as much as it is older and cobbled together.
Gotcha. Well, I'm no stranger to duct tape either. Yeah,
Interesting way of saying that.
they're gonna send a message to Jaloran because they give up with trying to do it themselves, but they're still in their last ditch effort to try and open a communications channel. Whatever the most popular show is, she's going to spoil it for them. Like whatever like the most popular Klingon thing is right now.
Okay.
It's such a dick move. Like probably for like whatever episode's like airing that night before anyone has the chance. Because I imagine that Kavai has their little grubby mitts in every point of the entertainment industry they can because they're an addict.
Actually, staying in tune with like that version of Hollywood sounds terrifying. But yeah, you will get a message to Jaloran, as Jaloran, you would probably close the way through the pancakes.
She kind of scowls at the comm for a second because she's looking at her pancakes. She looks at the comms and she's like, but I'm like almost done with these. And she's like, okay. She just kind of heaves a sigh and grabs a couple of pads and heads towards science lab. She's not even going to bother with changing. So she's going to show up in the science lab still in her dressing robe.
Yeah.
I got a ping, Kavai.
Yes, I can't figure this thing out.
And what is this thing?
You get like they will slide over like the most recent data. We found a toy. It was using your codes. Did you not get my message?
I was otherwise occupied for a little bit.
Understood.
She steps over to the console and takes a look at these codes. It doesn't take her long to figure out to recognize what they are.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like the first thing she points out is like they're old. They're not up to date codes.
That's good at least.
Not
but it's also
date,
concerning.
But still concerning.
Yeah, still concerning.
Also, you will have noticed that Kavai has like stuck a literal like a band-aid over the eyes of this thing, so that although it's still active with like all its tech, it can't physically look at them now.
I take it there were scans?
Mm-hmm.
So she moves on to what data Kavai was able to actually get back.
It's not a lot.
But
They're
it's more than
good.
what we
I'll
had
give them
before.
that.
Yeah, there isn't a ton to go off of other than the little bit that Kavai has collected. And it's truly just one of those things where, though your old authorization codes are old, they still hold a lot of, like, digital fortress behind them. So it is creating a little bit of a mess for Kavai, though Kavai has, honestly, with as much as they've done, is fairly impressive given the old codes and stuff. That punching through, I think Kavai's probably punched through about maybe 5 layers out of like 30 something.
You're improving at this.
Not quick enough. They don't say that out loud.
So Lauren just grabs over a stool and settles in at a console. She's already formulating a plan of how to tackle this.
Did you
and
bring
similar to?
Oh, sorry. Just as an aside, did you bring like food remnants with you, or?
She did not.
Okay. Carry on.
But similar to before, when she cut through the red tape to bring the Madrid office out of lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
it's like her fingers just start flying. And it's like streams of code just start flying across the screen faster than what Kavai can even track.
Yeah, you were watching an impressive thing, Kavai, of like Jaloin once again going through and punching through a whole bunch of like code. But you are seeing something equally impressive and also very terrifying. You're seeing like red lines of code being added at equal pace and equal measure. So, Jaloin, I am going to need you to make a... I would say this is going to be... Because it is your code, I am going to let you choose for this to be either presence or reason, but the discipline here is going to be science. And it will be a difficulty of 3.
It's the same number for both, so it's not going to really matter.
It will yield slightly different results, though, just depending on how you want to
Right.
go, because if you're going with reason, you're trying to sort of identify certain markers of like figuring out who this might be to some degree. You won't get a full answer, but you might have, you'll start narrowing things down. Presence, you will certainly make yourself known, and kind of more or less put the whole like, if with presence, you will probably make some of these cyber-based attacks on your field office back off for a little bit. So it comes down to whether you want to get some information out of this right now, or if you want them just to like stop harassing the Madrid field office for a few days or even a couple weeks.
Offensive or defensive?
Yep.
At this point, she's ready to go on the offensive.
Okay.
She wants to like get at the heart of this. And she's going to trust that her team is capable enough to help her do what needs to be done to protect the office. And they're all of them together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to end up being reason.
Okay. Difficulty 3.
And it's like, as far as her actual coding is going to go, she's going to go at this a little sideways, just like she used to do. Okay, so I'm going to pull on... I'm going to pull on 2 different focuses, linguistics and computers. Yeah, I'm also going to pull on the talent, computer expertise, which adds another d20 to my dice pool. And then she's also going to lean on a value. Mistakes are how we learn.
All right.
One, two, three, four, five.
Okay.
Two crits and a success.
Oh my god.
Plus the crit from the using your value, so it's 7.
7, yeah.
Okay.
So we have 4 momentum.
Yep.
I just like sits down, like kind of like reevaluating how they got here. It's just like, yeah, I never stood a fucking chance of not getting caught.
There is one of those instances, though, as you are watching this, even as Jaloran is going on the offensive, you are still watching this red line of code being added. Jaloran is tearing through it, but it is still impressive to see on the other side someone is putting code walls up about just as fast as she is breaking through them. And eventually she does punch through. And there is quick file that you are able to nab Jaloran before it kind of like a connection is broken. That is a file that is known as the contingents. You're not exactly sure what that file is, but the dot starts whirring up for a second, and you can hear this sort of like electronic chirping that seems to be going in a patterned noise.
Is it a pattern that she would recognize right off the bat?
Yeah, it's set to explode.
Yeah, it's like without skipping a beat, Jaloran site to site transports that dot out into space.
Mm-hmm. You can watch it out the window as it explodes.
Was I able to like follow any of like how we got to like there, or did it just suddenly go and I'm like, why did you do that? Like,
It was probably a very like dot would like there's code streaming, the clicking, suddenly the dot disappears, so it's like you are not able to follow that jump of why is the dot disappearing suddenly. Because like you think Jaloran is still trying to do the code, but suddenly dot is going bye-bye.
The code, though, Kavai, you are able to, because you're not the dumbest of individuals, you are definitely able to absorb a fair amount, and you are seeing like certain like things that Jaloran is doing, where it's like patterns and stuff, and also just certain aspects of code, like shortcuts that she's taking to kind of make these codes happen. So the next time you do have to like go up against someone who is equivalent of skilled with Jaloran.
question.
Yes.
Sorry, just sudden thought. I imagine coding is something akin to most writing, where
There's a signature to it.
yeah,
Yep, there is.
Yep.
Every coder has a certain style to
yeah.
how they do things,
Would
which
this
is their
be-
quote-unquote signature.
Yeah, would this be emblematic of anyone who would be like known or rumored about?
Not that you are aware of, though I think after this, as the dot is transported out, Jaloran is probably, I'm guessing, a little irate, because this kind of just halts things a little bit. But it is one of those things where you can kind of see it in Jaloran's face, the way, like, there's this little bit of tension. She has suspicions at this point.
Okay, that's more what I was looking for. I was like,
Maybe you don't know, but does your superior officer know?
yeah, like, does this feel personal?
This feels
At this point.
very personal, because
Gotcha.
That mission was not without fatalities.
Okay.
This is just by the way you can see Jaloran's face. This is Jaloran's white whale, more or less.
And then, if you start stuttering about where did the dot go, she just silently points out the window as it explodes.
No, it's more along the lines of like there's visual confusion of like what the fuck just happened, and then there's like a slow like settling, and then there's a who did you piss off?
Well, that's exactly something that the two of us would like to figure out.
Just like a very much like very cat-like whirling of like who the fuck what? Oops.
Hello. Calling that one a little close, Commander. 0.8 milliseconds, actually.
Whoever this person is gets the up and down look. Oops.
I think that's a record for me for calling it close.
Oh. See? Omnipotent being. Not immune to making mistakes. I forgot to shield myself. Well, okay, well, we're doing this now.
The
Kavai. Q. Kavai.
Kavai goes from like watching like a ping pong match to you've seen Kavai's starstruck. You've seen her squee over another Q. Kavai will get as close as like this other entity allows them to.
She has no concept of personal space. She doesn't care.
Yeah, Kavai will attempt to take their hand.
Sure.
I love you. And
While Kavai is momentarily distracted with that, Jaloran is downloading all kinds of data to her pad that she brought with her. Including that file, the contingents.
Alright, well, I suppose this is one of those instances where I guess the two of you are now connected in this sort of pinnacle moment in history. Again, Commander, calling it a little close. I wasn't sure if I had to step in or not.
I think at this point, your assistance will always be agreeable.
Well, you and I will have a better and healthier relationship than the other one, so...
That I can already tell.
Though, a little piece of advice, Commander. You've kind of been going at this a little solo. I think it's time you bring your team into the fold.
A little pastime. Especially now that the red tape is gone.
Well, old habits are so hard to break. And then she'll just be gone.
She leans over and just pats Kavai on the shoulder. Would you like a bite to eat?
She's just not mentally here.
At which point she just gradually guides Kavai out the door and heads towards 10 forward.
Anyone passing by is like whatever wafting off Kavai is as close to a religious experience as anyone is going to get.
And I was like, and Lord is just nodding. I was like, I understand. What do you seem to be craving at this moment? I just had the best pancakes.
Food is the furthest thing from my mind.
It might be
Well,
the
you have plenty of
furthest
time
thing
to make
from
a
your
decision.
mind, Kavai, but however, your stomach does not agree because you have been very busy, and your stomach's
This
full.
is true.
Yeah, it was like you had George just reassures her. It's like, well, there's still a ways to 10 forward. You have plenty of time to make a decision. Something sweet, something savory.
You kind of,
There's like a pause,
yeah.
and Kavai will sort of shake something off, not fully effectively, bright yellow, and you just like almost at like the back of your tongue would like just whatever like lingering taste that Kavai is now like in the back of their head projecting outward is just like this heat. But the word that comes to mind is spice.
Sounds like hash brown.
I know a great Bajoran dish. Would you like to give it a try?
Sure.
And I think at that point we probably hit 10 forward.
Mm-hmm. 10 forward, the Vulcan bartender is there, but he kind of notices the two of you. Not here for drinks. So, starboard side is personal chef.
Kavai not having been in here before, what's this gentleman's vibe? Like, about how old are they? What do they look like?
Probably in they're definitely older in terms of like most of the people within here, but they're probably younger than most Vulcans you've met in most sets. They're probably maybe 50 or 60. They're not super old. And it is weird because it is a little strange because you are definitely Vulcans that are very in tune with their emotions are very rare.
There's very, very, very uncharacteristic for them. There's definitely something floating around. They're on cloud fucking nine. They take one look at this poor guy and are just like, there's like a no filter, like none more than usual, and she just very nonchalantly says, "You are very attractive," and just goes to sit down.
Strong opening.
She's had a bit of a moment this evening.
A moment. Well, I've had a few of those. I'm not the personal cook or chef of this starship, but I can certainly get food brought here. Anything that you're particularly looking for today?
Let's do a single serving of hasperat, and if it can be warmed up, I hear that's the best way to have it. I personally would like a mug of hot chocolate with a peppermint stick.
You sound like someone who's a little homesick and tired and wants something comfort. You sound like someone who is looking to try something new but also something familiar. And then I have to ask the question. In terms of Hasperat, are we going with Bajoran expertise or someone who is non-native?
Non-native.
Oh man, player really wants to interject, but is also embarrassed, but also Kavai won't allow me to not. Yeah, fuck it. Kavai will lean over and just like holler out, I want spice levels that'll hurt me, daddy.
What?
I guess we shall make that
Using
Bajoran expertise.
Oh, Jesus, guys.
Someone sounds adventurous tonight.
Right. An experience you said they had?
They did.
Is it hot or spicy in here?
There is a serving of Bajoran Hasperat, and it is... You know that type of spice that you can smell when you know it's gonna be painful?
Oh yeah, this is gonna
Wasabi.
suck. I would hate this. Ugh.
I am going to say this is a somewhat bad idea, and I'm only saying that so I can say I warned you.
That's fair. About how many bites in before it actually hurts?
2.
Oof. I think they make it to 3 before they're just like, yep, okay, I'm sufficiently distracted now. Okay. I
And
can think again.
Jordan scoots the cup of water a little bit closer.
But they do not touch it. They just are head down on the table and like whimpering and just sitting in this.
Jolene just kind of sits back and sips on her hot chocolate.
Humility is good from Starfleet from time to time, and it's delightful to witness it happen in real time.
No
Can also be
longer
a learning
able
process.
to make eye contact. Kavai will not budge from head down on table, and they will just say, "This was not humility, sir. This is punishment. I apologize for earlier."
Oh, it's fine. I've had equally embarrassing experiences with you hear unfortunate things with your children, so this is not the first time I've heard that line of verbalization.
Ouch.
I would suggest maybe consider maybe taking your commander's lead and maybe get something with a bit of dairy or bread to null out the spice.
Oh my god! Sorry. Check it, see what just happened. But yeah, no, pretty much.
Yeah.
You and your timing, little.
Happened.
No, I'm fucking dead.
Silver, you made me do this. Just so you know, it's your
Oh,
fault.
yeah, no, that, yeah, like,
The way
we're
you
fucking,
worded it,
like,
it's all because of
way
you.
to just, like, immediately straight to my fucking heart. I was tempted to say something, but...
Anyways, Jesus.
Type it down. I'm so sorry again.
You're not that
Oh,
silly. I
I'm
know
sorry.
you're not. But with all of that and that down, to, this explains so much. But
Too much.
just the last scene. We just gotta get to it. At the end of that, you are now, Jaloran, as you're kind of looking at 10 forward and all of this and all of the stuff, and Kavai, head on the bar and all of that because Hasperat hurt. Um,
Worth it to not project shit.
it is kind of looking around 10 forward and seeing like Starfleet at this is something that has been missing from Starfleet for a while, and the Archimedes and its efforts, along with the fleet it was able to gather, demonstrates that this is what Starfleet is supposed to be, not whatever you have been dealing with in the recent months. It is also probably a good hint that maybe it's about time you read the rest of your team into everything. But I think that is where we are going to end this episode here. As a reminder to everyone, there will not be an episode out next week, as that is our last Saturday, so we will be taking that time off. But then the next week we will finish out the arc, and maybe we'll see if we do one more after that, or if we take our summer hiatus then. It'll all depend on how scheduling works out on my end, but for the time being, I do believe that is everything. Right, one final little thing before I close out. If you are not part of the D&D RP stuff that we are currently slowly but surely creating, because I'll toss up fun little writer prompts and you'll add to it, and that'll become canonized in the world. But if that's something you want to do, just go to our Discord. But otherwise, everything before that and after, we hope we've been a little bit of an R&R for your night. So we will see you later.